Imagine it's the late 1800s, the American West, a time of conflict, dust, and deeply held beliefs. In the ranks of the United States Army, a dangerous idea had taken root. It was more than an opinion. It was practically doctrine. The idea was simple. Once you take a Native American warrior out of his tribe, put him in a uniform, and drill him like a soldier, you break his spirit. You tame the wildness that made him a formidable foe. Army officers, trained in the grand traditions of European warfare, looked at their Native American scouts and saw a project. They saw raw talent that needed to be refined, molded, and controlled by military discipline. They believed that the structure of the army, its clear hierarchy, its standardized drills, its rigid formations was inherently superior to the fluid, seemingly chaotic tactics of tribal warfare. In their minds, the individual initiative that defined a warrior was a relic of the past, something to be stamped out and replaced with obedience. The logic seemed sound to them at the time. They had modern rifles, like the Springfield Model 1873, a weapon capable of firing with unprecedented accuracy and range. They drilled endlessly, marching in formation, volley firing on command. They believed in the power of numbers, in overwhelming force. How could a small group of warriors, armed with what they considered primitive tactics, ever stand a chance against the might of a modern, organized army? This wasn't just arrogance. It was a deeply ingrained cultural bias. To many soldiers on the frontier, an Apache warrior was only truly dangerous when he was part of a large war party, riding through familiar canyons and mountains where he knew every rock and crevice. The idea of a single scout, isolated from his band, posing a genuine threat was almost laughable. They saw them as valuable trackers, yes, eyes and ears in the wilderness, but a decisive combatant, an independent force capable of turning the tide of a battle. Unthinkable, this belief became a comforting lie. For commanders struggling to impose order on a vast and volatile frontier, it was a reassurance. It suggested they had finally replaced the unpredictable chaos of guerrilla warfare with the predictable certainty of military control. It was a way to mentally domesticate the very people they were fighting. By underestimating their opponents, they could feel more secure in their own methods. It allowed officers to dismiss the psychological depth and tactical genius of warriors who had honed their skills over generations. Think about the daily life of a soldier at a remote fort. You're far from home, in a harsh and unforgiving land. The enemy is elusive, striking like lightning and vanishing into the landscape. Believing that your disciplined approach gives you an absolute advantage is a powerful psychological bomb. It lets you laugh with your comrades, relax your guard, and dismiss the quiet warnings from a scout that don't fit your preconceived notions. It creates a bubble of false security. This wasn't just a failure of imagination. It was a willful blindness. The army saw what it wanted to see. They saw scouts who followed orders, wore the uniform, and drew army pay. They concluded, therefore, that these men had shed their old identities. They failed to understand that a warrior's mind, his connection to his culture, and his profound understanding of survival couldn't be erased by a drill sergeant's shouts. They believed they had created compliant tools, when in fact, they were living alongside men who carried centuries of tactical wisdom within them. This wasn't an isolated opinion. It was reflected in official reports, in personal diaries, and in the very way campaigns were planned. A scout was a guide, not a strategist, a tracker, not a tactician. This thinking permeated the entire command structure, from the highest general down to the newest private. It was a blind spot the size of the Arizona Territory itself. And this blind spot wasn't harmless. It led to tactical blunders. It led to ambushes that should have been avoided. It led to underestimating the resilience and ingenuity of the Apache, the Sioux, the Cheyenne, and others. The army was playing a game of chess, meticulously moving their pieces across the board, while their opponents were playing a different game entirely, one of survival, deception, and lightning-fast exploitation of any weakness. So, For years, this comfortable myth persisted. The disciplined soldier is superior. The individual warrior is obsolete. Control has triumphed over chaos. On paper, it all made perfect sense. In the quiet of a command tent, poring over maps, it was an easy conclusion to reach. But the real world, the world of sun-baked rock, thorny brush, and sudden, deadly violence, operates by different rules. This deeply entrenched belief, this pillar of military thinking on the frontier, was about to be put to the ultimate test. It had hardened into an unshakable truth in the minds of the men who held power. They were confident, they were secure, and they were completely, utterly wrong. Because in the year 1871, a single moment, a single action by a single scout would come crashing down on this entire edifice of belief. It would shatter the comfortable life forever and prove, in the most dramatic way possible, that you can take the warrior out of the tribe, but you can never truly take the tribe out of the warrior. That one moment would change everything. What happened in 1871? We'll dive into that incredible story in our next video. It's a tale of bravery, betrayal, and the stunning clash of two worlds that will make you rethink everything you thought you knew about the American West. Imagine yourself in the Arizona Territory, 1871. The land is a canvas of red dust and bleached bone, stretching under a sun that offers no mercy. It's a place where treaties are made and broken with the changing seasons, where words like peace have become brittle and hollow. This is hostile ground, a frontier that refuses to be tamed. In this unforgiving landscape, you meet a man named Alcasay. He's in his early 30s, a member of the White Mountain Apache. From birth, he was taught a different kind of strength, one rooted not in force, but in awareness. Growing up, he learned to track animals across solid rock, to memorize the hidden locations of precious water, and to read the language of silence as clearly as any spoken word. His senses were his weapons, his knowledge of the land, his shield. He was a survivor, molded by the harsh realities of his world. You see him now wearing the blue uniform of a U. Army Scout. It's a strange sight, a walking contradiction. But you understand his choice. He didn't join the army out of trust or loyalty to a government that had betrayed his people time and again. He joined because it was a strategic move, a way to navigate a deadly game. It was a chance to be inside the very machine that threatened to crush his people, to guide it, to influence it, and ultimately, to protect his kin from annihilation. His uniform is a disguise. Beneath it, his mind is a fortress built by generations of warriors who mastered the art of asymmetric warfare, fighting smarter, not harder. The soldiers around him are a stark contrast. They are young, loud, and brimming with a confidence born from the cold steel of their rifles. They look at the vast, empty land and see a conquest already complete. They march through it as if they own it, oblivious to the fact that the land itself is watching, resisting, and waiting. For them, patrols are a tedious routine, a battle against boredom more than any visible enemy. Complacency is a weed that grows quickly in the sun-baked soil of their overconfidence, choking out the fragile plant of caution. But you know this is a dangerous illusion. Here, in these borderlands, the line between life and death is razor-thin. Small patrols, just like this one, are where fates are decided. A moment of inattention, a misread sign, a sound ignored, these are the mistakes that get men killed. Every step is a gamble, every shadow a potential threat. The land holds its breath, and so do you. Now, feel the tension rise as Alcasay and his detachment of you. Soldiers move deeper into contested territory. He walks with them, but he's not one of them. His eyes are constantly scanning, not just the horizon, but the texture of the ground, the behavior of the birds, the direction of the wind. He's reading a story that his companions are completely blind to. They joke and laugh, their voices echoing in the vast stillness, shattering the delicate peace. Their laughter is the sound of innocence, or perhaps ignorance. Alcasay remains quiet, his face a mask of calm focus. He hears a pebble shift, a sound so insignificant that the others don't even register it. But to him, it's a shout. It's a signal that they are not alone. He halts, raising a hand. The laughter dies in the soldiers' throats. Suddenly, the heat feels more intense, the silence more profound. They look at him, their bravado replaced by a flicker of uncertainty. They see only rocks and cacti. He sees a dozen warriors, perfectly camouflaged, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. This is the impossible challenge of the frontier, the clash between rigid military discipline and the fluid, ancient instinct of a survivor. It's the moment when the careless laughter of youth collides with the hard-won experience of a man who knows that in this land, you are either the hunter or the hunted. Alcasay knows his people are out there, watching. They are his brothers, his cousins. He also knows the soldiers he leads are now his responsibility. He is caught between two worlds, a bridge over a chasm of violence and misunderstanding. He has a choice to make, and it has to be made in a heartbeat. Does he warn the soldiers and risk a bloody confrontation with his own people? Or does he stay silent, allowing the ambush to proceed, betraying the men who, for now, trust him with their lives? This isn't just a tactical decision, it's a moral labyrinth. His every action is weighed against the survival of his tribe and the lives of the men he guides. He chose this path to protect his people, but now it forces him into an impossible position. Alcasay's mind works with lightning speed. He isn't thinking about military protocols or the chain of command. He's thinking like an Apache. He needs to de-escalate, to divert, to create a third option where none seems to exist. He turns to the young lieutenant, his voice calm but firm. He doesn't mention an ambush. Instead, he points to a distant rock formation, a landmark completely irrelevant to their current path. He speaks of a shortcut, a better route, a place with more water. He fabricates a reason, a plausible lie that plays to the soldiers' desires for an easier journey. The lieutenant hesitates, annoyed at the change of plans. He wants to follow the map, the straight line drawn by someone far away in a safe office. But there's something in Alcasay's eyes, a certainty, a quiet authority that transcends rank. The soldiers, their earlier confidence now shaken, look from their officer to the scout. They don't know why, but they trust the silent man who seems to speak the language of the rocks and the wind. Reluctantly, the lieutenant agrees. The detachment changes course, moving away from the unseen danger. As they walk, Alcasay glances back. He sees nothing, but he knows they are there. A silent message has been passed, an understanding reached without a single word exchanged between the opposing sides. He has navigated the treacherous path, saving both the soldiers from an ambush and his fellow Apache from a battle they might not win. He has maintained the delicate balance of his existence. This single, quiet moment reveals the true nature of Alcasay's war. It wasn't fought with bullets and blades, but with wits, knowledge, and a profound understanding of human nature. He was a warrior of peace, a diplomat walking a tightrope in a war zone. His greatest victories were the battles that were never fought, the lives that were never lost on either side. Men like Alcasay were the unsung heroes of the West. Their stories are not often found in official histories, which tend to focus on grand battles and famous generals. But their impact was immense. They were the intermediaries, the translators of culture and intent, who navigated the complexities of a brutal and transformative period. Alcasay would go on to have a long and influential life, advocating for his people and working tirelessly for peace. He even traveled to Washington, D.C. to meet the president, always carrying the spirit of the White Mountain Apache, a spirit of survival, wisdom, and resilience. His story reminds us that courage isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's the quiet voice of reason in a chorus of chaos. It's the wisdom to see a path where others see only a wall. It's the strength to protect your own, even if it means wearing the uniform of your enemy. Alcasay's legacy is a testament to the power of awareness over force, and a powerful reminder of the complex, human stories that lie just beneath the surface of history. Thank you so much for watching. Imagine yourself moving with a US Army patrol, stepping carefully over uneven ground. Rocks, thorny brush, and deep shadows break your line of sight every few feet. The air is still, almost as still. You hear a few soldiers joking about the quiet, brushing off the old warning that silence can be far more dangerous than noise. But one man doesn't join in the laughter. His name is Alcasay, an Apache scout, and his eyes never stop moving. He's scanning the terrain, reading it like a book written in a language only he understands. His survival, and yours, depends on his ability to see patterns that others miss entirely. The sun beats down, a heavy, oppressive heat that seems to slow time itself. The patrol slows even more as you approach a narrow ravine, flanked by low, rocky ridges. A knot of unease tightens in your gut. You don't need to be a military strategist to know this is bad ground. This is an ambush waiting to happen. Sound will echo strangely in this tight space, and vision will be funneled, restricted. It's a natural kill box. Despite the obvious danger, 6 soldiers move slightly ahead of the main group. They're still laughing, treating this like a walk in the park. They climb a small rise without proper spacing, silhouetting themselves against the skyline. It's a rookie mistake, a fatal one. And then you see it. A subtle shift in Alcasay's posture. It's nothing dramatic, just a tensing of the shoulders, a slight tilt of the head. But it's enough. Your own instincts scream a warning, a primal recognition of danger that your conscious mind is still struggling to process. The world explodes in a single, sharp crack of a rifle shot. The sound rips through the quiet air, and for a heart-stopping second, there's only confusion. Where did it come from? Who's shooting? The soldiers scramble for cover, but there is none. The rocks are too low, the brush too thin. They are exposed, vulnerable, and a deep sense of dread washes over you. This is it, but Alcasay doesn't wait for orders. He doesn't freeze. In a situation like this, hesitation is a death sentence. He moves with a fluid speed that wasn't learned from any training manual. This is the economy of motion born from a lifetime of necessity, of survival. Another shot echoes through the ravine, then another. You find yourself counting the seconds between each report, a grim metronome marking the fall of a human life. Each shot is deliberate, perfectly aimed, and delivered with unnerving calm under unimaginable pressure. You catch glimpses of movement on the ridges of the enemy, but their initial advantage is crumbling. Their organized attack is collapsing into panic as their own men start to fall. They abandon their well-chosen positions, their discipline shattered. The soldiers who were laughing just moments ago now pinned down, their faces masks of shock and disbelief, struggling to comprehend the chaos that has engulfed them. You hear their shouts, desperate calls that quickly fade into an unnerving silence. In the space of just a few minutes, all 6 men who walked ahead so carelessly are killed. Failure seemed inevitable for the entire patrol. It felt like a trap with no escape. And yet, survival emerged, pulled from the brink by the decisive, swift action of one man. Now, let's zoom out from the bloody ravine to the wider picture of the frontier war. In this era, news travels slowly. Official reports take days or weeks to move up the chain of command. But the consequences of an action like this travel at the speed of a bullet. When the details of the ambush finally reach headquarters, officers are forced to reassess everything. They question how they use their scouts, how patrols are structured, and why their standard procedures failed so catastrophically. A slow but undeniable shift begins to happen in military doctrine. Commanders, many of whom previously looked down on indigenous methods, start to acknowledge the immense value of tactical knowledge honed over generations. This encounter reinforces a new kind of respect, one born not from official policy or mutual understanding, but from the raw, undeniable proof of effectiveness. It's a respect born from fear. You can see the cause and effect rippling through the Army's operations. In later patrols, you see scouts integrated differently. They aren't just guides anymore. They are listened to as tactical advisors. You see changes in patrol discipline, in the spacing between soldiers, and in the newfound awareness of terrain. The lessons learned in that ravine are paid for in blood, but they are learned. Moments like this one, repeated across the frontier, fundamentally change how the US Army fights. But let's not forget the human cost. We must return to the 6 soldiers who died. They weren't just numbers in an after-action report. Each one had a family waiting for them, a future that was stolen in a matter of minutes. Their loss leaves a void that can never be filled. Their story is a tragic reminder of the price of ignorance and arrogance. And what of Alcasay? He continued to serve as a scout, his reputation preceding him. In the years that followed, he became a respected leader among his people and a crucial intermediary between the Apache and the US government. His actions that day saved countless lives, both in the immediate firefight and in the long run by reshaping military perception. But his recognition was quiet, often unrecorded in the official histories written by the very officers whose lives he saved. This story matters. It matters because it challenges our assumptions about who holds power, what constitutes intelligence, and where true respect comes from. It forces us to look beyond the uniforms and the titles and see the skill, courage, and wisdom of an individual. As you listen to this, you feel the weight of memory, the responsibility to not let these stories fade away. If this story moved you, please click the like button to help keep this history alive. Here, we are dedicated to rescuing forgotten stories like this from the dusty archives of the past. We invite you to subscribe and join our community of history lovers. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from, and please share if you have a family member who has served. Thank you for taking the time to ensure that Alcasay and the 6 men of that US Army patrol are not forgotten. Because history only survives when we choose to remember it.